So now we're beginning the fourth video of the actual construction of the greenhouse, and we are installing now the corrugated polycarbide, the roofing now, which is going to be a very durable and allows the light to come in, but also create a warm interior. And so the whole process has begun. I have a lot of the screws in on this one side. I still have quite a few to put in. One of the things I'm concerned about, I'll show you in a little bit, is some of the actual areas where close to the edge we're going to be sealed in so that the warm air will not be escaping. So I'll show you how I'm going to be sealing in on that. One of the things that's concerned when you're trying to prepare your polycarbide and cut it and get it ready to be installed on the roof is how to cut it. And so I've tried several different methods, and so actually I've found the best way to do it is rather than putting a regular wood saw blade into a skill saw, I've actually found that this masonry blade here is actually cuts through it a lot easier without any chatter, without a lot of breaking or anything. It just goes right through it. And I've been able to do like 3 sheets at a time. You might be able to do more. Most of the time I did 1, sometimes I did 2, and this last cut, which actually was the smoothest and the best, was actually I did with this blade right here, this masonry bit, and I went through 3 sheets of the polycarbide and made one of the best, smoothest cuts in the whole attempts I've done. And so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm installing the first step that I actually began to do in order to prepare to put the roof on, the ceiling, is the application of the corrugated spacers. There's sort of a corrugated type of spacers that you can buy at Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever hardware store you're looking at. And so that will kind of, the grooves will accommodate up into the actual edges of the polycarbide. So as I've been installing the polycarbonate or carbide, I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it, I've been using these hex head screws that you find at any hardware store. They're actually, they're kind of a washer capped fasteners, and so cap washer, they're called, piercing screws, and so they're really good for attaching this type of corrugated roofing. And so I found that along the leading edge here, right a little bit up from the drip edge where the gutter is going to be, where actually the beginning of the interior of the greenhouse is, I've been adding a lot more at every single valley a screw so that it'll seal it down as much as possible so that it'll hold the warm air in. And if I need to, I can always come back behind it on the inside and caulk a little bit to make sure there's no leakage of the warm air in the winter time to keep it warm. I'll show you what I did at the very crest up there. So I'll be adding, after I get it all installed, an actual ridge cap that I purchased, a kind of a special cap that'll go over the top, and it'll keep all the moisture out. And so that's how I'm doing right now, and I'm beginning to add the last few sheets on the roof. So now I'm up on the very top, the ridge of the greenhouse, and I've already pre-drilled all the holes, and I've installed all the screws in all of the actual valleys to make sure it's really tight. But if it needs to be, I'm going to come back and lay a ladder up here on the far side, and as I've done on this other side, I've caulked every single little seam just to make sure there's no leakage of air. We don't want that warm air that accumulates there in the wintertime. We want to try to keep it as warm as possible for the plants. And so I've done all of that. I'm come down here. I'm about to install the last row of screws here. So in the middle of the actual roof, I'm not adding that many screws. It just wants to be attached firmly. But at the very top and at the very bottom, not the drip edge, but the bottom where it seals on the interior, I've actually added screws at every single valley. So I pre-drilled everything so it doesn't split out the polycarbonate. So I want to make sure it goes right through and right into the spacers on underneath the side. So this is the last video I'll be making on this particular aspect of building the greenhouse out of repurposed windows. I did install all the sheeting or the polycarbide corrugated sheets last fall, so I've waited several months through the winter months to do any more videos. I installed them right before the rains began here in the Seattle area. Then after installing them, I went ahead and added on an L-shaped kind of a fiber ridge cap that goes all the way across, overlaps in the middle, all the way across the ridge, kind of seal it in so there won't be any leaking. I also sealed it with some caulking on top, and then came back all the way around in all the crevices and all of the corrugated gaps with a kind of a spray-in foam that expands. It starts off as a light cream colored, and over several months it's turned yellow. But I filled in all the gaps all around the edges of the outer edges of the interior of the greenhouse. And one of the areas I'm still going to need to give some attention to is the outer edges of the inside of the greenhouse, where the corrugated polycarbide comes in contact with the spacers, the corrugated wood spacers. And so I'm going to need to get up in there and probably put some more actual caulking to seal it in. But as it is, whenever the sun does come out, it definitely heats the interior of the greenhouse, so that at the point at which, in this part of the day, the 1st of April right now, afternoon, it's probably about 1 o'clock, it's already about 90 degrees. And so I'm working on I have windows to the left and right of the stained glass window that are hinged, so they'll open up when it gets too hot. And also on the west side also, there are 2 windows to the left and right of the middle window. And these will also hinge and open up. And so as it is right now, probably installation of a fan for the future will also help it ventilate some of the warmer air as the summer approaches. Definitely will be needed. So I'll be working on some other videos about venting, about how to keep it cool, maybe some shade cloth installation. Also maybe a little bit about the installation of the floor. I had a lot of donated granite countertops from a friend who installs kitchens, and so Gene Cartwright, thanks. I'll have some granite countertop pieces I put down there for the floor. Been bringing lots of plants in, working on some succulents and other kind of vegetable plants are popping up now. It's 1st of April, and so having a lot of fun with it. Be working on probably an irrigation system and capturing some of the water off the roof, and having a guttering system installed, and how we're going to do that with maybe a drip system inside. So a lot of things to do. It's a lot of fun to build your own greenhouse with recycled windows. Have fun doing your own project.